Okay, so today I'm going to be listing off my top 10 favorite free-to-play units. The Truth did this not too long ago. I thought it was a great idea, so I thought I would share you guys my list. Now, the list that I've crafted here isn't like the top 10 best free-to-play units of all time. These units that I have in my top 10, whenever I use them, it's usually a really good time. They either perform really well for the event that I bring them on, or you know, I just have fun using them in general. So for a little bit of spoilers, there's no LR EZA Frieza, there's no LR Roshi. I know they're really good cards and I love using them, but I think the point of this video is just to highlight some of the lesser known free-to-play cards that I think are really good. So the way I'm going to do this is just go through my character box and then just inspect the card and talk about why they are in my favorite top free-to-play units list. So let's start it off here. This is in no particular order, by the way, as well. Just gonna go down my character box. And we do not have any physical units in my favorite cards list, funny enough. If there was going to be one, it'd be like LR Krillin and LR Master Roshi, but LR Master Roshi is kind of easy and a cop-out for the list. And then LR Krillin just didn't make it. I was considering him, but it just didn't make it. LR Frieza would be great as well for the list, but that's an easy cop-out. I wanted to really highlight some of the unknown characters, or like some of the underrated characters, to say the very least, okay? For the first card that we are going to be talking about, it's in the Super STR list here. We have Grandpa, Gohan, and Pan. Actually a really underrated unit. I just really like them. Other than their like little RNG factor, you can say that for Goten and Trunks as well, the Dokkan Fest exclusive. Like once you get that RNG, they are so strong and they defend well because they raise their attack and defense from the super attack. And not only that, they get a decent amount of defense from their passive alone. They can get almost 3 million attack stat from a free-to-play team. And you know, easily 3 million if you run it under a pay-to-play team. And they get like 200,000 defense from, you know, just from their super attack mechanic as well as their passive activating. It's so good. Really underrated card. Every time I use them, they just surprise me of how good they really are. Other than the fact about their link skills, everything else is pretty good, and like the lack of categories, but they work well in Goku's family, which is the most important thing in Kamehameha. Okay, so the next unit I want to showcase, this one's an obvious one, but I still had to put him in. High School Gohan. I mean, he's a tank. He's a overall tank. Everybody knows how good he is. Attack and defense boost with the damage reduction of 58% plus the support. This guy is pretty much perfect other than the lack of damage, and he's got some decent links as well. But a really good card. There's not much to explain about him, just him being really good. Whenever I bring him into Super Battle Road, he tanks and he can stun, which is awesome. Alright, so let's keep on going here. The next one is the Int Final Form Frieza, the EZA card. I mean, you are versing Goku's family for 80% of the content in this game. And for that, you have guaranteed damage reduction and guard, which was insane. This is tanks way better than High School Gohan if you get that Goku's family you know, specification off. Plus, he's got a good enough attack and defense. Plus, he's a support for all allies, key plus. It's not just like extreme allies, it's all allies, key plus 2 in attack and defense plus 20%. And he lowers attack and he infinitely raises attack, meaning if it's a long event, he's going to do a lot of damage and he can still lower attack, making your other units tank just as well. And not to mention, he's a Frieza unit, so he has some of the good links. Fierce Battle as well, really good, and he's like in a million categories. Pretty self-explanatory there. Every time, I just run him so many times in Super Battle Road that he doesn't really screw me over at all. The next unit that I want to list off actually has a pairing. I couldn't leave them separated, so we have the Int Caulifla as well as the Tech Kale. They are my go-to stackers, probably my favorite attack and defense, or just defense stackers in general, because when they're together, they activate their full passive, which means an additional super attack, meaning they can triple super attack at times, depending on their hidden potential system. And Kale here supports for Pure Saiyans allies, which is awesome, and Universe 6 category allies, which goes well with the Int Caulifla. And Int Caulifla here has the dodges, and they're just really good early game and end game. They're one of my favorite stackers to use. You see them every time I go up against the Infinite Dragon Ball History event, or when I'm trying to first clear the LGE. Like, they are my go-to stackers. I can't use a full stacking team without these two girls. Like, the only weakness they have is if the enemy locks your rotation. That's about it. But other than that, like, they are almost perfect. When they get their awakenings, Oh my god, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. And not to mention, when you have them together, they link so well. Like, it's instant super attacks regardless. Alright, so moving on, we have Lord Slug right here. Lord Slug is literally so good in Super Battle Road. Like, when I bring him in Extreme Tech ESBR, he did well. Super Battle Road, he did well. Like, the category Super Battle Roads, he always does well. That medium chance of stunning is so clutch in Super Battle Road. And, of course, when he's versing 2 or more enemies, he gets that attack and defense boost, which makes him tank really, really well. And not only that, he does get that attack and defense boost, the more HP remaining, stuff like that. And he starts off with 3 key and attack and defense plus 100%. And if you do get underneath 30% HP, you do gain 30% HP back, which is so clutch. This guy is so helpful for me in Super Battle Road, whether that is just tanking or whether he just stuns or just even does damage. He's just so clutch. And his link set is not too bad as well, like Nightmare Thirst for Conquest, Big Bad Bosses, Metamorphosis. It's not a bad link set for sure. And like movie bosses, I used him. Terrifying Conquerors, I used him. Inhuman Deeds, I used him for Super Battle Road. Like, all 3 of those categories, I used them in the Super Battle Roads. And then I'm probably going to bring them on Dragon Ball Seekers, Namekians, or Space Traveling Warriors when those Super Battle Road categories come out as well. He's just an easy pick to have, especially if you're running, like, a full villains team. Then we'll move on to my Super Tech units, Goku and Gohan. You know, they're just a solid unit. You know, the raised defense, one of the greatest stackers, especially early game as well for the lowering attack. Like, I always have them in my, if I know that I can lower the enemy's attack in Infinite Dragon Ball History event or LGE, like you can do, these guys are just so good at the start, just to not use any items. Plus, they don't have the most amount of attack and defense, but the support is really good, especially when I do my showcases. You've seen them many times in my showcases. They're just really good for Goku's family units. And, yeah, just a solid support. You know, obviously, you don't want to exchange with them majority of the time. It's very rare when you want to. Maybe at the end when you want that slight attack and defense increase. But, yeah, I mean, they fit in a lot of categories. They're really nice to have, especially when running under Goku's family or a lot of Goku's family units. And good link set. Another solid free-to-play unit is Mr. Boo. If you've seen my Super Saiyan 4 EZA video, you will know how useful Mr. Boo was. Like, his super attack mechanic allows him to raise defense for the turn and lower the enemy's attack, which is awesome. He can be a really defensive beast. He changes orbs to rainbow, which is great. Attack defense plus 80%. And he gets an additional attack and defense plus 20%. And recovers 15,000 HP per rainbow key sphere obtained, which is so easy to get. An additional 80% attack and defense because he changes orbs. And stack that with the raised defense, he is tanking so much. And usually, I have him max additional, so he's always getting that double super. It is a perfect combination. You might not have the best link set for most of the free-to-play teams that I run, but because he changes orbs, it's just so good. And the healbacks. He fits in a lot of categories. Majin Buu Saga, I use him a lot in Artificial Life Forms. He has clutched up in Resurrected Warriors, Super Battle Road for me, both ESBR and SBR, because he can just lower the enemy's attack, and he heals. Transformation boost, all that good stuff. He is an amazing tank, I've found, and just an amazing healer. Very, very good. And then the final tech unit that I want to highlight that is my favorite is Great Saiyaman 2 and 1. I didn't use them much at the start on their release, because there wasn't much content I could use them for, but lately, especially with these Super Battle Roads, they have been so useful for me. I consider them one of the best lowering attack free-to-play units in the game. They lower the attack with their super attack, of course, and not only that, they lower attack through their passive by 20% for 2 turns. So it's like you're double lowering the attack, like you're getting a double super pretty much just from one super attack, which is great. And then if you get the additional super attack, it's like you've triple super attacked in 1 turn, which is amazing, right? After you do the super attack alone and you get the passive off, you're taking normal attacks for double-digit damage, essentially. There is support for Special Pose, which is a really good free-to-play category. Got a decent amount of attack and defense. And, like, you can risk it a little bit with the medium chance of evading enemies' attack. I just love using them because they just lower attacks so quickly. Although I never use the exchange mechanic, they're just alone, just this in this form, is so good. Really, really good card to have for many hard events. Like, most of these cards that I'm talking about just helped you out in Super Battle Road or LGE. And then we're on to the AGL units. Not many AGL units in my top list. We're on number 9 here. So, second last unit that I want to talk about is 8-bit Vegeta. Just like Grandpa Gohan and Pan, he does so much damage. And it's so easy to get his full passive off. You just have to verse superclass enemies, which is like, again, like 80% of the enemies, 90% of the enemies that you verse anyway, especially in Super Battle Road for his categories, like Vegeta's family, because you verse Goku's family, Terrifying Conquerors, Inhuman D's, you all verse super units in there. He's like one of the strongest Vegeta's family free-to-play units in the game. He has a decent link set, more for like the Vegeta's family thing. It doesn't really fit like in Terrifying Conquerors or Inhuman D's or Planetary Destruction, but still very, very good. And of course, like with his super attack mechanic, he raises defense. He can get some decent amount of defense. He's more defensive than even some pay-to-play units in his own team, so that's awesome to see. The only thing, of course, that I do not like is that his free orbs only gets him a total of level 20 in the hidden potential system, so that's the only downfall. But other than that, you can just give him some skill orbs, and you can boost up his additional mechanic just a little bit more, which would be really, really good. And then the final unit that I want to talk about is Hercule and Buu, one of the greatest defensive units. They greatly raise defense on their super attack at a stack, by the way, and lowers the enemy's attack. Great early game, great late game. He is like one of the fastest defense builders for free-to-play. And for his first form, he has that medium chance of evading enemies' attack, which is very clutch, especially with his exchange mechanic. He reduces damage by 40% when HP is 40% or more, which is awesome. Usually over 40% HP majority of the time anyway. He's a Majin Buu Saga support. And then the only thing is, like, his exchange, I wish it was, like, by choice, I will say. But his exchange condition is if you take 5 or more hits, right? So if you can get unlucky with him when it comes to his defense and exchanging, because when he exchanges into Buu, he doesn't stack any more defense. He just greatly raises attack and defense for one turn. But if you get like 5+ super attacks in, you're pretty much at 300,000 defense, which is plenty. Maybe not plenty for the last phase of, you know, the LGE GT, but for most content, 300,000 defense is more than enough. And of course, if you do have that 300,000 defense and you activate this mechanic where if you have Hercule or Goku attacking the same team, he guards or attacks, then he's just invincible at that point. I've given him max additional because that greatly raised defense is good. He does lack in the damage, but then again, he's mostly a defensive and a support unit. So I really like this unit. One of my favorite defense units, and you always see them as one of my units in the stacking team as well, just because how fast they can stack the defense. But anyway, that is going to wrap up my top 10 favorite free-to-play units to use. I tried to avoid more of the well-known ones like Roshi, Ella Frieza, Prime Battle Goku, all that stuff, because they're just purely on damage, and just try to highlight as many underrated units and units that I use whenever I use them, I have a good time with. If you guys have a favorite free-to-play unit, let me know in the comments down below. I would really like to know what your favorite units are. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Check out all my social medias in the description, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, stay fizzy. Peace out.